Violation, Part 5. Betrayal by society and groups. There are many forms of betrayal and ways in which it attacks you. However, it's very important to understand how violation works to entrap a person into the clutches of betrayal. And people will put themselves through activities trying to get accepted. You'll participate in froshing, think that it gives you status or get you accepted by older school mates in a school or university or things like that. But it doesn't. It really doesn't. You'll go through, like at university, they have these clubs and these beta society and this,
Initiation.
and they all have their little initiation groupings, yes. But you don't really get accepted. You're still the youngest or the newest, or you're this or you're that. And if you fail the test, they won't even talk to you after. And some of their initiations are quite gross in there. So you have to devalue yourself to get accepted, and then you're not really accepted. That's a betrayal. We have another thing that's come up as really big in society today is pranking or razzing or impractical joking. Well, what does it mean when somebody makes fun of you? What does it mean when they demoralize you? Make you look stupid in front of everybody? Do you feel accepted?
No.
No. Because it's a part of betrayal. Violation, betrayal. And yet there are accepted ways that we have in our society of saying, oh well, if you want to get accepted, you have to pass this, you got to do this, you got to do that. And we can see from some of the TV shows, all they do is make fun of you. You become the joke instead of the person. Number 3 here is like children's games. You're chosen to be the loser. Okay? You can have teams and they'll put you up against somebody that you cannot properly compete with because you have no experience. Oh, you're not fit to be on the team. You're not fit to participate. And they mark you for life. That's a betrayal. Even events within schools, you have these little games that they play, and a teacher will unbalance the team by causing her favorites to be on one and the others so that they're always the loser. That's betrayal. But it's a violation betrayal. You can't win. Anyone here ever had a dare? Not to cookies. challenges that were given to you, bets that were made against you. Why does a person dare you to do something? They want to see you fail, yeah.
They want to do it and are afraid to.
No. They want to see you fail. And when you consider it, every time somebody does something that wants you to fail, that's a wounding of your character, a wounding of your spirit, and it's something that has to be turned over to Jesus at the cross. You don't get whole, you don't get healed when you are allowing yourself to get constantly wounded. We have challenges, well, this group challenges that group to do certain things. And we say, oh, that sounds good. But is it? No. The aspect of challenge is a competition. And the competition is to create a loser or a group of losers. They had this ice bucket challenge going on in the States. And they don't even know where that was pulled up from. The practice of, well, when they skin babies alive, they dunk them in cold water first so that they will stay alive longer and won't bleed to death so fast until they can get all the skin off them. That's where it came from. A practice of witchcraft. And people, oh, you gotta take the ice bucket challenge. What are you telling Satan? That you want to be diminished as a sacrifice to him. Do you really want to be sacrificed to Satan? Is that a goal? But people will take these challenges. They will take bets on things. And you don't know whether the thing's rigged or not. Say, oh yeah, I'll bet you that. I'll bet on this. I'll bet on that other thing. For why? Betting just is saying that you're willing to give up something to be the loser. Even if you win the bet, you're still the loser. That's not relying on God as your provider. A justifier. The one that glorifies you. Another form of this comes when you have teams status. Most valuable player. Well, who decided what was the most valuable player? You ever figure that out? And they'll name the most valuable player at the game. But not how that was chosen. Was it prearranged before the game started? I know there was an incident where a person got a list of the most valuable player in the third period before it was over, and the guy that was chosen was confused, got hit earlier, and something wasn't functioning right, and he scored on his own goalie. And they had to pick another one suddenly, but they was about ready to call him as the most valuable player. How was it chosen? What's it mean? It means no matter who was doing their best, maybe the whole team was working as a unit. They're saying, they don't count, only this one counts. Wow, that's dangerous. That's really a dangerous format to take on. But we participate in these. Do you realize just watching it and the process take place, you commit yourself to not being the most valuable player. So when Jesus identified you as a saint, you can't see yourself as a saint. He identified you as, when you believe in him and follow him and obey, that you're a believer and that you're entitled to eternal life. But you won't see yourself as that because you've been discounting yourself as not the most valuable player. And even though these systems are fully accepted by society, they're wrong. They're based on wrong principles. And we shouldn't participate in them because it encourages others to violate us and violate the promises that have been given. Another aspect of this comes from false rewards. There's an air miles thing in some of these customer appreciation bonus things that people collect points and collect points, not realizing that if they don't exercise all these points within a 2-year period or 3-year period, they're wiped out. What kind of reward is that? Think about what kind of reward doesn't let you enjoy the reward even though you've earned it. Only one that's there to violate you and put you down. That's the only type that's there. False rewards have become an epidemic in today's society. They sell these 649s and Lotto Maxes and scratch your heart out contest things. And they say, oh, you could be the big winner for this, and you could be the winner for that. You could be one of the 15 million losers too. You know, really. You gotta look at it. You could be one of the 15 million losers that bought a ticket. So one chance in 15 million seems good odds, right?
Well, with God on your side, yeah.
God never moves you into claiming what's false.
I know.
So he'll never be on your side for it.
That's why we don't buy them.
Okay. But this is a really strong epidemic. And then we come to what is called broken promises. Now this is a really bad one. People will back a political party because they believe that the promises that are being spoken have some validity to them. And how many of them are actually carried out?
Less and less all the time.
Only the bad ones.
Out of the 196 promises that Trudeau made to get elected, how many has actually come to fulfillment?
None.
One or two, maybe?
Marijuana. Well, it's not legalized yet,
No,
but it's on its way. And yet, they say that he's the most popular prime minister that we've had in Canada.
don't think anymore.
Most loved.
Don't think anymore, not what I've been reading.
Even the Americans are quoting him as a great prime minister for Canada.
Ooh.
They said, how could they not re-elect him? He's got nice hair and a cute ass.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's the right that you need, right?
Okay? But this is part of that, creating a false promise that can only be broken.
Do you know how many came to pass?
Two.
Oh, two?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
he was changing something in one of the criminal act items he said he was going to change.
Yeah,
And then,
it's a disaster though.
so, even at one of the things he promised never to bring in the carbon tax, but to encourage proper development from companies so that the carbon tax would never be necessary. Never did any of that. He just brought the carbon tax in. Okay? He was going to eliminate the deficit in 2 years.
How much is he
Wow,
increased
is
it?
it? It's nearly doubled.
Yeah.
And he's still on a spending spree. We also see promises, well, we'll get this law passed and it will correct this situation. They passed the law. They put a bunch of non-thinking bureaucrats in to enforce it, and things get worse. It's a broken promise. Nothing got fixed. And the reason? It was there to violate you. Because it was getting you to rely on a government rather than on God. To hope in a government. To hope in their laws. We see broken promises and false promises come out of the school system. Oh, if you get a good education, you're guaranteed a great job. Then why do we have an official rate of 7.9% unemployment in Alberta? We have one of the best educations across the country, according to them. So why have we got this situation going? What's happened? What's going on here? We also look at who is out of work or who is overqualified for the jobs that they've been forced to take. And when you take that into account, you'll see that 55% of the university graduates are not working anywhere as close to the field that they graduated in. So you tell me, what good was that education? None. It was to weed out the ones they didn't want to move into the New World Order. So they can just green pick and pull them. Wasn't for the benefit of the people. Wasn't for the benefit of the individual. It was for the benefit of a foreign group to control you. Wow, that sounds like it's a good thing to get your children educated. In the school system. Well, the school system means sewer. So you gotta look, do you really want your children to be taught out of a sewer? Fed from a sewer? Does that sound like you're treating them as though you love them when you do that? No. Don't push it. Sure, they can learn to read and write in school, but get them thinking in advance with things outside of that so they're not locked into a non-thinking mode and become useless. Do you know that banks make all sorts of promises to you and they don't keep them? Bank with us, your money's insured and secure. Is it? No. Just some of the Canadian banks are big enough they can withstand a lot of shocks. Where American banks just fold. You know, as soon as like this little gut check that took place in the market, the stock market. Guess what? Yeah, I think it was close to 20 banks they said are filed for court protection. So they don't have to pay anybody out of the accounts. How can that be something that you rely on? And yet they make promises which they violate. And you participate in it when you believe it. I do believe Jesus had written there, prove all things, hold fast that which is true. He didn't say, hold fast to false promises. You ever notice that? It's not written anywhere in the Word of God, stay true to false promises, so they can violate you. So, we have organizations like unions and things like that. They also issue a lot of false promises. They say, oh, they're there to protect your rights. No, they're not. They're there so that you be a slave, so the guys that are in head of it have extra cash to spend at your expense. When you look at over the 100-year period with all the times that were spent on strikes and all that to try and get improvements, that had they just not gone after them and accepted the wage offers that were issued by companies, they would have been 10% further off than they are now. So does that sound like a good thing to stack up and be in favor of? Not to me, not to God. Eight is peer standards. Where do we get peer standards from?
Our peers.
Well, basically peer standards come out of crime lords,
Or what?
out of crime lords.
Uh-huh.
You know, drug lords,
Yeah.
warlords, all these. They set a standard of what they expect, and it passes on to a standard within society. And the thing is, they can set standards on things, and if you don't agree with them, they can make your life miserable or end it for you. but they don't set them according to God's standards when they do it. Clubs have standards. Community leagues and stuff like that, they all have certain standards, but they don't always tell you what that standard is, hoping that if you break one of their rules that they haven't told you about, they can mock you and disgrace you. Do you know that church organizations and church groups have lower standards of behavior and character reverencing than crime lords do or gangs do? The mafia has a very high standard on stuff. Okay. And if you go against the Don, you sure find out in a hurry it wasn't worth it. It may cost you a couple of arms or a leg or your knees or something as a warning for the first time. I don't ever hear a second times. I think the lesson does learn.
But you're not too aware to learn it.
But what is God's standard that we should be looking at? Not what little cliques form for standards to belong to their clique. What is it that we've been established with our Father in heaven to have? What Jesus gave us for standards. That's what we need to follow. Not what all these clubs and crime groups and community leagues and all these other things have, because they're not based on the laws of love. They're based on violating, making people less than they are, driving them downward. Another form, of this violation through betrayal comes from seeking the honor, glorification from others, making a name for yourself. One person that comes to mind here that recently got really upset over this, if he wanted to become great in the eyes of the world, was Justin Bieber. When he was called upon to have sex with a 12-year-old male. Or he wouldn't, and have them photograph it, and otherwise they were not going to give him the big bucks, but these big entertainment sites where he could play it. They wouldn't make him great. Well, you see, when you look to the world to make you great, you're saying Jesus doesn't know how to do it. I got my scheme of how I'm going to work things to get great. So you're violating who you are. Do you realize that? You're violating who you are. When this being honored or being glorified comes into play and you look to man to do it, you always have to compromise something. Some value has to be compromised or they won't let you into their into the winning circle. Number 11 is seeking respect from others. What is the difference from honor from others and respect from others?
To earn respect.
You basically have to earn respect. But, see, when you get respect from others, they give you a paper title. It doesn't mean anything, but they give you a title. And when somebody gives you a title, they can easily take that title away from you.
Yeah, like doctors to stand up for what's true and what works for their patients, and then they speak about it, they come and they take their, they debar them, not without lawyers. What do? They,
Yeah, they remove their license.
yeah, they remove their license, right?
Yeah. License to practice.
Yeah,
But they spent 8 years, maybe getting, sometimes 10, to get their so-called doctorate and right to practice license in order to get respect from the people. And they lose it, just like a snap. They were violated. And we're not participating in that need to get respect from others. It's Jesus and the Father and the Holy Spirit that we're not supposed to be grieving so that we can have their respect.
yeah, you wanna go to be the doctor to help others, but not for the respect of the title. Oh, I'm a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Number 12 is like trying to have an identity that is set by the definition of other people. People come and go in your life, have you noticed? People come and go from all directions. And if they define who you are, then you're nobody to start with, and you'll end up nobody. You won't even accept the basic principle of who you are with Jesus. You won't. You will not be able to put that identity into your heart. Because certain standards are part of that qualification to that identity. All right? And you always lose because you're always being violated. Anyone ever hear of husband or wife enslavement?
Seen it.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to be my husband, you'll do this and 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 this for me. And any other thing I decide.
Do they tell them that before you're married?
Not usually, but because they think they're going to change
Change.
the other person. Soon as somebody's trying to change you, they're trying to enslave you and not set you free in Jesus, but to enslave you to themselves. There's people that I've counseled over the years. One woman thought that it was her husband's duty to service her 5 to 7 times a night and still get up in time to go to work, come home and make her supper, clean the house, and then go in for another session to entertain her all night long. Was he treated as a person?
Some wives do it, some husbands do it probably,
And
so.
lots of husbands do it.
Yeah.
But what I want to point out is that that is enslavement. And it's also a violation. It's also betrayal. Because they promise to love one another. And love doesn't try and enslave another person.
Yeah, this one lady said, oh, my husband doesn't wanna spend money on that. He can just get another contract and just be quiet about it. That's enslaving the person.
There's many things that form that enslavement.
Yeah.
And even when you have, let's say, both a husband and wife work, and he comes and will sit on the couch, watch TV, doesn't communicate with her, but is demanding on the supper and demanding this and demanding that, and does nothing to help with the affairs of the house, the home. It can never be a house or a home. It can only be a house because it has no love in it. And that's what enslavement does. You don't enslave somebody that you love. But it's part of the accepted society standards. Under a lot of the stuff with women's rights and, well, she has a right to her body being beautiful, so the abortion can take place, and then you have children. But why get married if you're not going to have children? If you're not wanting them. It's different if you're wanting children, you get married and you can't have any. But if you want them, one party wants them and the others decide not to. That's a form of enslavement. Because nothing is real. It's just a violation, a betrayal, and a betrayal, and a betrayal, and a betrayal. The 14th item in here is accepting a curse or a demeaning nickname or condemnation. As soon as you do that, society likes to put them on you. Groups like to put them on you. But when you accept them, you're saying, I am not an individual. I am not a person. And I cannot be loved by God because I have no value. It's bad enough when parents give wicked or horrible names to their children. Yeah, that's bad enough. But when they put a cursed name on them or a demeaning nickname, that's totally unacceptable. Right now, a lot of the children are being encouraged to smoke pot, and they're like 6, 7, 8 years old.
By the parents?
By the parents.
Why, so the parents don't feel guilty because they're doing it, or why would you do that to your child?
Because it makes them brain dead. They won't argue with you.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
They think, oh, it calms them down, so I don't have to deal with them.
Yeah.
Um,
And then they go around calling them potheads.
and they made them that way.
And they made them that way.
Well,
See? Or they joke about them because, well, look how stupid they've been acting. You know? They did this thing wrong, that thing wrong, this other thing they blew up, you know? So they're always being condemned. And they're never allowed to expand into their identity and the qualities of life that God has for them. And that's why this violation, betrayal, is so important to deal with. Birthday wishes. Do you know that when people wish you a happy birthday, they're not really wishing you a happy birthday? First, the wish is coming out of witchcraft. It's not part of something. God says, bless one another. He doesn't say put wishes on one another. So, what is it with birthday wishes that is a violation? You see, it's telling you to make the most of your physical body for excitement, for your pleasures, and not for what God's purpose is for you to have that giving your life to start with. We can celebrate an anniversary of life, but when we go birthday, we're talking about simply celebrate the flesh, not life itself, not the life that you've been given, or what you've learned over the from year to year. There's another form of violation that takes place here, and that is preventing souls of the dead from resting. People will call up souls of the dead to stay in their house so that they don't have to miss that person. Or they can communicate with them. Well, what do the dead know? They don't read the future. They're not in it. They're in the past. We had a 17-year-old male that phoned. His mom was a twin, and her sister died here in November, and she's got the little containers of ashes in every room of the house with a picture thereof, her sister, and speaks to them, prays to her in each room. And he says that weird things are starting to happen in the house. He wanted to know if his mom is going insane. But he also wanted to know, like, what should I get out of here? What's going on? This is not right. So, in his heart there was no peace about what's happening. But his mom just won't have anything to do with him, won't have anything to do with his dad. All she wants to do is pray and talk to these ashes and these pictures that she has all over the house. and says, "Oh, did you hear what my sister just said to me?" Well, you know, there's one thing we were told not to practice is necromancy.
Yeah.
But the other is you don't even call that person's familiar spirit in to call and talk to you. Why call a demon into your house? You know?
And what really shocks me and just is so, to me, gross, is when they take the ashes and make your dishes out of them and eat off that. Oh, that,
Or rings to wear, or
yeah, a necklace around your neck.
yeah. There's another thing they do is they make a memorial cake with the ashes, some of the ashes in it.
Oh, disgusting, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the word.
What about making a diamond out of the ashes?
Well, again, that can be done in memory of the person, but it is not of God that you spend all that money to do that. That's not what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to remember them by the good times you gave them in memory. Okay.
And-
What good thing have you done for them?
And remember them and the character that they had that's built into your family line because of the character and what
Yeah.
and the love they passed on to your family.
But I think they do that because they're guilty for not treating them the way they should have when they were alive.
Yeah.
So therefore they're trying to do it after they're dead.
Yeah. That is a common event. But not letting the dead rest destroys a person's sanity. Because they'll often get a soul attachment. And the soul of the other party will actually begin to possess them.
Of the soul of the dead person
Yep.
will possess that person.
If they don't let them rest, it will eventually possess them.
So it causes like a
Insanity.
war in the person,
Yes,
like a mental.
a type of schizophrenia.
Okay. So then that person's not at rest. Okay.
Well, they can't, the deceased person cannot rest. They're being constantly tormented.
But the person alive has a hard time resting as well.
That's right, they don't sleep. Anyway, the number 17 item is dinner parties of deceit. One of the big things that's going on right now is someone, they'll throw a dinner party and they'll invite 20 people they like and one they don't like. And this, when it comes for the food and stuff, oh, we're sorry, we don't have enough for you. And they don't feed them.
Oh my goodness.
Did you say
They
dinner-
sit there and watch everybody else eat.
Did you say dinner parties for deceased? What was the word after that?
Of deceit.
Of deceit, oh I see.
So what would you do if you're invited to a dinner party and the person didn't have any food for you? Just for the...
Leave, I hope.
But you see, it's a violation. And sometimes what they have is, if they're serving wine, everybody gets the good wine except that person gets the cheapest of possible wines. And they're going, ugh, what is this? But there's things that are done, and they're done specifically as a sign that you're not wanted, you're not accepted, and you thought you were going to be accepted because you've been invited to an important dinner party. Instead, you were mocked, which is the violation. And there's another portion of this. Let's say you were invited to a family gathering, and then everybody starts celebrating pagan affairs at it, knowing full well that you do not celebrate those pagan events. You see, you've just been invited to a dinner party of deceit and violated and betrayed. Okay. Number 18 is when you're used for another's needs, but you're not wanted and you're not respected. Oh, come help me move. We're going to have a party. I'm going to invite you into, a housewarming party, but I need some help getting this thing moved. And you have the housewarming party and the person's not invited. Oh, it was an oversight. No, it wasn't. Times, oh, can you help me with my taxes here? How we get this done in this time? And I'll do a favor for you later here, whatever you need. I'll come help you with it. And they never show up when you need them. Often, like bosses will say, well, you get this done and there's a raise for you coming up here right away. And the raise doesn't show, or the bonus doesn't show. Yeah, we get this project out on time, there'll be bonuses. And it never shows up. He pockets it instead of sharing it. There's all numerous types where that takes place. And it takes away from your ability to love and your identity of who you are, because you feel disrespected, unwanted, unappreciated.
That whole fiasco with Sears was a big violation.
Oh, yes.
For those people that worked there for years, and the CEOs that were getting the millions, they've come down a lot, but it's still, I don't know where it is now. I haven't heard lately, but that.
It was a sham.
Yes. It's not godly.
There's another form of violation that comes under accepted by society, which is not very pleasant, and that is you get talked into helping somebody, and while you're helping them, they're stealing from you or lying about you, and often trying to get hold of information that they can use against you later on. Blackmail and things like that. And it's becoming more and more prominent. Students will tell their teacher, if I don't get high grades, I'm going to the police and saying you sexually harassed me. So the teachers give them high grades because there's no way they can defend themselves. Nobody will believe them.
That's what happens when you kick God out of the schools
Mm-hmm.
and the home.
But it is just part of this thing is that no matter what you do to try and help people, they're still wanting to destroy you. That's under that violation. And you've all felt it in one way or another in your life. And it's a turnover item because you can't carry that weight. It wasn't meant for you. Number 20 is when somebody identifies you as someone of the opposite sex than what you are. You know, that's a type of violation that is very difficult to deal with. Mothers will think, oh, well, letting the little boy's hair grow into long curls and dressing them up feminine like everyone's, oh, there's no harm in that, that's just playing. No, it isn't. It sets the psyche for the rest of their life. You know, treating the daughters like tomboys, again, sets the psyche. In the army, they got this nasty thing. The sergeant will refer to all the privates as, okay, ladies, time to get going.
Calling them weak. Is that, or is it more psychological?
It's calling them as though they have no sexual identity as a male. It destroys them for being loyal. Because they don't know who they are.
Is that the purpose of the?
It's made. Why they're doing it, they don't understand themselves. Because it's been passed on for so many generations, and that's why there's so much corruption and perversion in the armed forces and in the police force. Because it's a curse put upon those of low rank. So even if you get up in rank and you are doing it to somebody else, it's still part of that violation and part of the betrayal. Because when you put the wrong sexual identity on a person, it wounds their character of who they are and sets the wrong identity patterns in motion. And they don't recover. These are peer pressures, and there's just a few of them that we've mentioned here. And it's what Yeshua called the ways of the world, the entrapment of the world. Come out of the world, he says. And these are the ways of the world, to destroy who you are. And you see, once you get trapped in these, or you've experienced them, in one form or another form, you're trapped under the pressures of the world system. And you pay a penalty till you turn it over. It affects you. When you are chosen by God, then all the ways of the world are designed to betray you. Okay? They're to destroy you, so that you can't walk with them. They're done to control you and submit you to the constant torment by pushing you into unforgiveness to yourself You know, well, I should have said this, or I should have done that, or I should have done this other thing differently. When you got those things in the back of your mind on something, you've already been violated by the peer pressure of society to be part of the world, to be destroyed by the world. Now, it makes it hard to forgive the offender when you're not forgiving yourself. You can do false forgiveness, but you can't really release it from your heart. And those that are violating, you know, it's hard to turn them over because the pain is deep and covered. And then it's, how do you forgive God because He allowed it to happen? Why didn't He protect you from that? It is not designed for mercy in any aspect from the world, but for treating you with contempt, with anger, and demeaning. Not with mercy. Not showing you a way to freedom, but a way to further entrapment. Dig this pit deeper. You'll enjoy the stink down there. And Satan does not miss any opportunity to ensure that this happens, where you dig yourself into a deeper pit every time you move. But when you know his schemes and ways, you can choose not to become part of them. You can choose to turn them over when they come to attack you. Violation, betrayal will always leave you broken in some area of who you are. Always broken. And it'll leave you in doubt of your identity. Who should you be in Jesus? What's your purpose? You won't know. You know, the world's going around, well, what is the purpose of man? Why are we here? You know, what's going on? What's our destiny? Why? Because they're all in violation. Under violation, betrayal. They're unable to see their destiny. You doubt that you are loved or lovable at some point. It becomes where you absolutely doubt that you're lovable by anyone. That you doubt that you have any worth. You doubt that you are wanted anywhere by anyone other than to be abused. And you cannot appreciate the things that God is doing and doing for you, around you. You know, for you and around you. You don't see them. They slip by you. So you never go into thankfulness. And where doubt is left unchecked, faith, trust, and hope cannot find a foothold in your life. But bitterness and resentment and maliciousness and lying can. And they take a person over and become the established ID in their life. So you have to look. If you got violation, you can turn it over and have that faith and trust and hope. Have an identity that's positive, or you can take on and say, no, bitterness and resentment and maliciousness and lying are going to be my identity for the rest of my life. Because that's what they do when they take over. They become your established identity. Never giving you any rest or peace or mercy. This violation betrayal is only broken by the Passover service. It cannot be broken by any other means. And a good laydown of the violation components or the things that became prominent in your life from violation on betrayal. When these things are turned over, it is so refreshing to get clean of them in the Passover service. This is not a whimsical, emotional display that in the Passover. It must be from your heart, so that the heart can be healed and made whole. So your character can be, that has been wounded so much over the years, can be made whole. Therefore, in closing here, we bless you with the grace to break free from this continuous pain that violation has brought. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen.